Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Trifecta, the official podcast of Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with me, Katie Paige. I am so happy to have you all here with me tonight. I am so looking forward to our guests. You know how there's just some people you meet in life? I met L. Sydney Fisher in the Ozarks at a UFO conference, and we just hit it off and we clicked. And she is a #1 best-selling author, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with her. Unfortunately, we're having video problems with her video, but she has her audio. She sounds great, and we'll be able to see her beautiful face. So it's all going to be good. But before we get to Sydney, I want to just share. During the show, I always ask three. Actually, I changed it this week, and from here on out, they're going to be multiple choice questions. But I wanted to congratulate our past winners: Bibba, Mark, Joseph, Paul, and Greg all got free PDFs. So they got 100% of their answers correct. So congratulations to all of you. And I also wanted to just say that next week we have none other than Michelle Miners, and she's going to be talking about the high strangeness in the Uinta Basin, and that'll be next Wednesday night. So look at that, 2 females in a row. I'm so excited. It's kind of hard to grab up these women in these fields, so that's why I'm so excited to have L. Sydney Fisher here as well. Also wanted to make, hey, hi, thanks for being here tonight. And as fate would have it, we had the craziest. Okay, so I live behind Pikes Peak outside of Colorado Springs, kind of near NORAD, up in the mountains. And we had the craziest hailstorm roll through this afternoon. And then the sun came out. I thought it was all over. And now we're getting another round of heavy thunderstorms. So it's kind of fitting for the paranormal and the spooky guest tonight. So you might hear thunder and lightning in the background, which is pretty cool. But without further ado, I'd like to bring L. Sydney Fisher to the stage. Hi, Sydney. How are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Katie. It's so good to see you.
I know. We haven't talked much since we met way back. Well, how many years ago was that we hung out?
Has it been a couple?
It's been a couple. It's been a couple of years. And I don't know. I know you felt it too. It was just like you meet those people and you just had this instant connection. And I had that with you. And we sat outside and just had a great conversation. And so I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I know, and we're planning to see each other hopefully in the upcoming months. Maybe we girls can have a weekend at the Stanley Hotel. So,
Ooh, that would be fun. And I kind of want to get started, right out of the gate. I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit about your background, where you're living, how you got started on all this, and then we're going to dive into your books. I have so many questions about so many of them, and then I kind of want to get into UFOs because you were at a UFO conference, so I know there's an interest there at the very
right,
least.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so I will tell you basically the same thing that I have always said for many years. You'll hear me say I don't believe that a person is born believing in the paranormal. Rather, it comes as a type of transformational learning that a person goes through over the course of their life. It can start at any age, depending on what those experiences may be. But at the same time, I've always said that. I've also said that there are one or two things that happen to a person who has had a paranormal experience. One, they'll either spend the rest of their lives becoming a lifelong learner or an explorer of unexplained mysteries, um, or they may not be the adventure seeking kind, but their views and the way that they see the world will change, and they'll always be that person that says, anything is possible. So, but what happened to me, I think, as a young child, I'm wrapping up a book actually as we speak, um, a book project that I've got going on. It's called The Bridge, and it kind of takes you from the time that I was a child all the way through my life and through a near death experience that I experienced when I was about 15 years old, and how that changed me and sharpened clairvoyant abilities and that kind of thing. But when I was about 8 years old is when I actually say that I had my very first paranormal encounter that I can legitimately say was a haunted house or, disembodied spirit, and that changed everything. And so
Yeah.
I became this young person who would go to the library, during the summer months, and instead of reading Amelia Bedelia books that I'd always loved, I would head over to the New Age section and make sure that I didn't want anybody to see me going over there. But
Right.
I would pull off several of them books and sit in the floor and just read and read and read. So it became a lifetime research for me, studying
Right.
the paranormal.
Yeah.
And
Where did you grow up, Sydney? What state was this in?
so, so I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and moved to Northeast Mississippi when my parents separated when I was a young child, about 4 years old. And so I grew up most of my childhood between Tupelo, Elvis Presley's hometown, birthplace, between there and Memphis. And so I was all in Elvis country, wasn't I?
Right.
But
I know you have to. I have to ask.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Have you seen Elvis? No, probably not.
no, I've not
But
seen
he,
Elvis, but
but
I
he,
sure did. I sure did love living in that area where
yeah,
he
it's
was
beautiful.
celebrated. But I will tell you that I lived in Mississippi for most of those years, back and forth between Northeast Mississippi, Tupelo, and Memphis, seeing my dad and visiting and that kind of thing. And then whenever I got older, of course I stayed in Mississippi. I had two children and raised my children there. But it's like I said in this book. There's a line in my book that I wrote, and it says, "We packed up our things from the boot hills of Missouri, and we went to Mississippi, but our lives were anything but ordinary." And so when I decided to leave Mississippi about 2 or 3 years ago, I now live in the Nashville suburbs in Nashville, Tennessee area. And this is it's so funny because I go from one haunted house to another. It's been almost like this lifetime journey of how do I keep having this dumb luck that I end up in another haunted house over and over and over. And, eventually I figured out that that's not exactly what's happening.
Right. Do you
Um,
think the phenomenon follows the people, so it's attached to you, maybe?
I believe that people actually are capable of becoming almost like portals themselves. Sensitives, people who are sensitive, it wouldn't matter where they lived. If there is spiritual activity in a particular area and you are an empath and you are intuitive or you are a clairvoyant who has images in your mind's eye that come and go, um, you have a gift that is going to follow you no matter where you are.
I
So,
agree with you. I agree with you on that.
yes, and so it doesn't really make any difference. Now, it took me until I was an adult to figure out I was not having this dumb luck. But
Mm.
when you read this book that is headed to the editors, hopefully before long, but you will see that there was, I mean, it was like this pattern. It was a pattern that I could not figure out. It was scary. A lot of times I lived in absolute terror. And then I eventually got into ghost hunting myself and doing paranormal investigations. So that is something too.
Right. I would really, well, first, before I get to the question, I'm going to pop up question number one. So, what I'm going to do is every show I'll have a UFO question, and you can think the answer in your mind, Sydney, too, see if you know them. And then we have a paranormal question and a cryptid question. So, the UFO question for number one. So, everybody get ready, and you put your answers, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research.org podcast. So, UFO question: what U.S. government project investigated UFO sightings between 1952 and 1969? Was it Project Blue Book, Project Paperclip, or Project Gateway? All right, that's question number one. So, where I'd like to go with you, Sydney, is you had, and I don't know if you're comfortable talking about this or not. And if you're not, that's okay. I understand. But you had a near death experience. And for the last, I don't know, couple years, I've been really reading some books and studying disassociation and how this opens the portal or some sort of connection to something. And whether it's paranormal in nature or ETs or spiritual or something, when we disassociate, whether it's near death experience or trauma or meditation, whatever means we leave our bodies, that we connect into something. And once we do that, we're kind of always connected. And that's kind of what you were saying, right? It sort of has followed you. But it sounds like you lived in haunted houses, you said at age 8. So it predated your near death experience. But do you think after your near death experience, were things heightened for you?
They were. So what happens, and I've done a lot of research on this, near death experiences. A lot of times, what will happen to people, they will see. Some people become more intelligent. I'm not saying that happened to me, but some people become, their intuitive abilities are heightened, their psychic abilities are heightened. They might have never had psychic abilities before, and then now they do. Um, Also, they may become artists in some way. They may take up painting or writing or whatever it may be. They may discover that they have a new ability, a new creative talent. It's very interesting. After the near death experience, the night that I had this horrible car accident and was drowning in
Oh, no.
the water, the vehicle was turned upside down. When I had this terrible accident, after I got out of the vehicle and realized I'm actually alive, you would not believe how magnified sounds were.
Mm.
Sounds and smells, it was like a sensory overload. And so that was very interesting. But I began having premonitions that would just happen all the time. And also, I would be able to know, how sometimes you'll have a hunch that someone's on the other side of the door, and then you open the
Yeah.
door, and oh, there, it's who I thought it was. This happened to me regularly.
Wow.
And I would even hear conversations, and then I would find myself 2 or 3 days later having that exact same conversation. So it was really amazing, and I noticed those things, but the thing that really stood out was the ability that started to materialize in the form of being able to see spiritual energy. And when I say that, I mean being able to see, let's say, a ghost or a spirit that's sitting in a chair. And it was so funny to me because after I embraced this and I got used to it, I started, it was comical sometimes when we would be on investigations, and the look on the ghost face is always the same.
Like
When
you
they
can see me?
yes, it's that. They have this stunned deer in the head, deer in the headlights look, where they're just kind of stunned and they look like they look confused, number 1. But number 2, they're confused too because you can see them.
Yeah.
So,
But not very many people can. I guess I would think children. Now, do you find that to be true that children are more connected to the other side as well? And I, you of all people, it's you're the person to ask if you have children, young children, and they're seeing spirits interacting with ghosts. How as a parent do you handle that?
that's really that's really tough. And I will tell you why. Over all these years, and I had small children, and during the time that I was writing books and I was doing paranormal investigations, or we were living in a haunted house, I tried everything I could to make sure that my children were absolutely oblivious to anything going on. And the reason I did that is because they are so impressionable.
Mm.
I did not, I wanted them to feel safe and secure in a stable environment. And so they never read any of my books. They never read what mommy was writing about. They did not go on paranormal investigations. We didn't even watch scary movies very much, rarely in my home. Um, if we did, it was the PG ones.
Right. Even
Uh,
Snow White can be a little scary. I mean, let's be honest here. Some of the Disney movies are a little terrifying when you're a small child. So,
yeah, that's
no,
true.
I think that's really important. But let's say a child comes up and says, I'm scared. I see a shadow or a ghost in my room. Do you let them just kind of speak it out or draw a
Yes.
picture and just leave it alone? Or how would you handle that?
I wouldn't leave it alone, but I would try to gather as much information as I can
Yeah.
about what they're seeing and any conversations that they're having with that spirit. So that's going to tell you, it's going to tell you the intent of the spirit. Sometimes it'll give you a little bit of control of the situation.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I personally never had to deal with that, but I have heard of people whose children,
Yeah.
and to me it's I hate it when I hear that because um we all want to protect children,
Yeah.
and without knowing who the spirit is, whether it is an earthbound spirit that's just here hanging out and is confused and maybe left with unfinished business or whatever. I just wouldn't want them communicating with my children. Now, you can, when you have these conversations with your children and you can determine a little bit about more what's going on,
Yeah.
it's very possible it could be angelic. I mean, that could happen as well.
Yeah, or a
So,
grandparent or a loved one or something like that. And I think it's Benno, 1975. There, he was mentioning the telepathy tapes, and kids with that are on the spectrum, autism or pervasive development disorder. That, or we're hearing a
mhm,
lot about the telepathy tapes, and I feel like children just in general. Especially kids that have special gifts and abilities that are on the spectrum and that can see auras, can use their minds and their senses in different ways or more
right.
profound senses than the adults. And so when you were able to see spirits sitting in a chair when you went on an investigation, were you able to also read, like, see people's aura colors or read their energy and things like that? And my other question is, I'm sorry to bombard you with a whole bunch of questions, but it's my job here. But I'm so curious, how did you approach that? Let's say, you saw, were you able to see people's relatives that have passed, like kind of psychic abilities? And did you feel comfortable in communicating what you saw or understood from somebody on the other side?
So I never have really seen auras.
Okay.
I have sensed energy. I can read energy very easily. Occasionally, I will pick up on a relative that may be attached with a person, but this is when this happens. The reason that happens is because that particular relative or whatever is so strong, their energy is so strong that it comes through naturally.
Mm.
So it's not something if that I go around. I'm cautious about sharing things with people just because it can upset them.
Mhm.
Um, and so I don't do that unless you have to have a discerning spirit. So I don't do that unless I feel welcomed to share.
Makes sense.
And so if the person is open to that or they're inquisitive, then yes, I will share things that I see. And there was one other question. There was something you was talking about that I wanted to add to as far as children are concerned. Another reason that children are more uh, tend to experience the paranormal more so than, let's say, some adults. They have
Mhm.
not been conditioned to believe that it's not possible. So
I agree.
when you're a child and you're fresh, you're young and innocent, and your little mind is a sponge and you soak up everything, they haven't been yet conditioned to believe that, hey, this is not possible. You're not seeing a ghost, it's just your imagination. So
Yeah,
they totally don't know about that, and so yes, it's very real to them,
yeah.
and it's very real in itself that it is actually happening.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that we as adults kind of get conditioned to, really become judgmental of others. And that's why I agree with the comment right there that, it's so important that we have these platforms now and more people are feeling more comfortable to tell their experiences, whether it's extraterrestrial in nature or a ghost or anything like that. So I think that's so important. And the stigma is slowly, ever so slowly going down. But
Right.
I think that's so wonderful. I'm gonna before I pop up these the books, and I want to get into your book series here too. And then I also at the very end want to touch on some UFO stuff and why, what the interest is there because you were at the Ozarks. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But let's go ahead and pop up our paranormal question. And I made these a little bit easy for the first few weeks. So paranormal question. What's the term for a spirit said to make noises and move objects around a home? Is it a poltergeist, a shadow person, or a banshee? Okay, so I am going to bring up, I would like to start right here, the Bradford series. And you know what I love about your work, Sydney, is a lot of your novels are based on true stories or true events. And I think that is really interesting and fantastic. So, can we go ahead and talk about this series here?
Sure. So this series is based on a true story. The manuscript is about 90% word for word as it happened, believe it or
Wow.
not, with only a little bit of creative, creative nonfiction, as they call it, where the author uh, may dramatize a scene for the sake of storytelling. Um, the court documents are almost word for word as that when this case actually went to court back in the 1970s. But this is a story about basically a woman who finds herself engaged to a man who has been arrested for killing his wife, and he convinces her that he's the good guy, and so she marries him and moves into a house. She totally was oblivious to ghosts and all of that stuff, and she moves into a house where it not only is haunted by one but two ghosts, and so it is the most fascinating story because there are a lot of synchronistic elements to this.
Mhm.
Um, for example, she married Devin Bradford. Natalie Bradford married Devin Bradford on the same day of his deceased wife that he killed. He met her at the same place where he murdered her.
Wow.
Um, he then married her on that birthday, and Natalie Bradford became so consumed with this haunting that was going on at Lindenwood, and it was affecting the entire family except for him, interestingly enough.
Mm.
But then one night he comes in waving a gun in her face and telling her that he stood on the side of a mountain and the devil stood before him and he made a deal with the devil. So it was this crazy speech. She rushes past him and actually is able to get into the vehicle and get away from Lindenwood after about 3 months. And then she files for divorce after she gets away from there, and her divorce is granted on the exact same day that 2 years ago he was indicted for the murder of his first wife.
Wow.
And
I
I'm
tell
going,
you, I
what?
feel like we are, I mean, I know the simulation theory is very controversial, but these synchronicities and these stories of things like this are just mind blowing to me. How in the heck, how does this even happen?
Well, I was asking myself all those same questions too, because Natalie Bradford would have, there's no way that she would have orchestrated, there's no way she could have orchestrated all of that.
No.
And it was just too uncanny to dismiss. But you know, she was, the doors would open and close. She would go to bed at night. Her husband Devin, who was the the man who had murdered his wife, he worked a night job, so she would sleep in the house by herself, and the doors lock, you know, from the inside, the bedrooms.
Mhm.
And she'd get up every morning and the door was wide open, and she would wake up in the middle of the night to her hair being rolled. Her hair was being with rollers in her hair, and his deceased wife actually had a beauty shop. She had a salon in the
What?
down Yep, she had a salon in the downstairs area of Lindenwood. So she would wake up and she kept feeling like that she was being pressed into the mattress, and she could not get out of the bed. And then she felt fingers in her hair, and all of a sudden she was able to jump up and get off the bed and go to the mirror. The door was standing wide open. There was no rollers in her hair, none.
But she would feel like, oh my
This
gosh.
woman, and here's something else that's crazy about this story. This woman was a registered nurse, and a few months before she met Devin Bradford, she worked at the hospital. He was shot also at the scene whenever the domestic dispute, they had a domestic dispute going on, and he killed her in front of the Rex Plaza restaurant in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Mm.
But he was shot twice in the abdomen and was escorted, or was transported to North Mississippi Medical Center. Guess who the operating room nurse was when he came in?
She was. No.
She was. And she assisted in saving his life, and the little bullets that came out of his chest clink clink into the pan when they removed him.
All right, y'all. You'll have to get this book. Yeah, I know I'm ordering it. This is insane.
Crazy.
Oh my
Crazy.
gosh. What I love about the work you do, Sydney, is, you said there's court documents. How long does it take you to write a novel like this? And I mean, it sounds like you do a lot of research and that these are based on true stories. Can you kind of talk about the
So,
process of just writing a novel? Because how many novels have you written right now?
well, I've published more than a half a dozen. I think it's 14 or 15, but I have been in the middle of moving and letting life get in the way. I had gotten away from publishing as much, from writing as much in the last couple of years or so. But I'm
Mhm.
back. Hey, I'm back at the desk. I'm working,
Yay.
working. I've got several things in the works, but this uh, usually, to answer your question, it depends on how much research I'm going to have to do. Now,
Mhm.
ideally, to shell out a book like this, you 5 months,
Okay.
but
That's pretty quick.
that's
That's
fast. That's fast, but
yeah.
that's doing it full time. That is being at the computer every single day, not missing any time to write. So one of the books that I wrote called See No Evil.
Okay.
Uh, that particular book was based off of a man who was a clairvoyant, and he was called the Mississippi Mystic. And I just stumbled across that story. It took me about 8 months to write that because I did do a lot of research, but
Yeah.
it was fascinating. So, to
Yeah.
answer that question, it really depends on the amount of research. This one, oh boy.
The Devil's Board. This is called The Devil's Board, inspired by true events. So let's talk about this one.
This one is based on something that happened at a college campus um, in rural Mississippi back in 1987. True story. And I was there. And I was there. And I actually am a witness to this story. So here's the final thing. If you're going to play with a Ouija board and you're going to conjure spirits, just be aware that you don't know what you're calling.
Right.
How can you actually know? So and my participation in the event was just completely foolish, but I'm going to say that was an 18-year-old at the time, and I was just, you know, that was 18.
Right. I mean, we all, we do things. I remember like in the 70s when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but we did this thing where we would try to levitate people, and there was like this saying we
Oh
stick two
yeah.
fingers under, like light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board. And I mean, we all do kind of these things when we're younger, right? Not knowing what we're delving into.
Right, right. But I do want to touch a little bit on the paranormal investigative side. When
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
when I got into that, um, after, oh goodness, I think it was in 2018, I decided I was looking for some inspiration for book settings, and recruited a group of folks. One guy, I always teased him and said, first time I met him, he was going to be our cinematographer. And the first time I met him, Katie, he said, I'm from New Orleans. I grew up in New Orleans. I said, you're in. Because if I was like New Orleans, one of the most haunted cities,
Right.
you got to be with us. But
Right. Why,
anyhow,
real quick, I want to interrupt you right there and then we'll get back. Um, why are certain cities, I mean, obviously there's historic cities, especially in the South, you hear, these haunted cities,
oh
but is there more to that? Do you think why certain locations are more haunted than others? Have you
yes,
ever thought about that?
yes,
And
yes.
what's your opinion?
Because there have been mass casualties in some of these locations. And where you have mass casualties, you have opened up a portal to the other side. You think about this when a person dies, if they are going through the tunnel and they see the light and all those kind of things, when it opens, and that person, that soul has a choice of whether or not to go toward the light, or that some of them get earthbound or stay earthbound. You have mass casualties like on Civil War battlefields.
Right.
It's an explanation that has been offered that, in my opinion, it makes sense.
Right.
So, but you can go anywhere in the United States to any city, and somebody is going to have a ghost story, because the truth is they're everywhere. But there are places that seem to be almost like infestations of
Mhm.
hauntings. And I will tell you what my psychic friend told me many years ago. Brenda told me that where there has been massive bloodshed across the land, that the hauntings will continue until the land is cleansed. So, how
Sure.
do you cleanse the land of massive bloodshed?
Right.
You
I mean, that
don't.
makes sense too. Yeah, even Rocky Mountain Ranch, tying that in and some of the high strangeness. And that, that's why, with these locations, like from my childhood, we had it all from, the hitchhiker paranormal stuff to the UFOs and orbs and cryptids and everything, hence the trifecta here. And I'm so happy because we get to delve into all these really important and I believe connected topics. But you think of the bloodshed and the scalpings and in the battles that ensued, very brutal throughout our country for millennia. So yeah, that makes sense to me that where there's mass casualties, there would be more people opening, closing these
Yes.
gateways or portals into different dimensions or realms. I never really thought of it that way, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the answer why some people say, "But my house, no one has ever lived in this house, and we built it, da 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 da." And I said, "Well, did you ever research the land?" No.
Oh,
Well, maybe you should have
yeah,
before you built the house, because your house is now sitting in the center of a major Civil War battle.
right. Yeah,
And it
that's
could
good.
very easily be sitting on top of graves or
Yeah,
whatever.
right. Well, let's get back to the gentleman from New Orleans and your experience with the Devil's Board, this novel here.
So the devil's board actually was about a Ouija board incident that happened, and how that these college kids became so, one in particular, Amber, became so enthralled with this spirit that she was contacting. And you will see in that story that it just became absolute madness. The dorm caught on fire. I apologize for my country southern drawl. I bet everybody is just laughing,
Yeah, I love it. I love
enjoying
it.
this. But the dorm caught on fire one night when they were playing the Ouija board, and she challenged the spirit and said that she wanted him to prove that he was real and that he could do something, and this, that, and the other. And the next thing you know, like, I'm talking about not even 5 minutes, there's black smoke all in the
Yeah.
dorm. So
Don't
uh,
challenge spirits, people. Do not. Not smart. You were you
I
there for
would
the fire, or what
no. I
experience did you
actually,
have with that?
my former roommate was, I was calling the dorm. This is back during the days when you had telephones on the wall,
Mhm.
and not a cell phone.
Right.
And
You wrap
I was,
around the cord.
yep, you could wrap around the cord. So I was calling the dorm, and she picked up and answered the phone, and I heard all this screaming. And she said, "I've got to go. The dorm is on fire." So I jumped in my car at that point and raced down to campus. And there it was. I mean, and there was the police. And they had confiscated this board that was in Amber's room down at the other end of the hall, and he busted it into a million pieces. But
Oh,
there were a lot, yep, but there was a lot of other things. He burned it. He stuck it in the garbage can and lit it on fire. But there were a lot of other things that happened uh, during those few months when all this was going on. There was a lot of conjuring and a lot of board playing and a lot of scares. And
man.
supposedly the spirit that they had contacted was a guy who had committed suicide on campus years before, and he was an angry spirit. And he told him
Mhm.
he was angry. He said he wanted to come back and get revenge.
Mm. Gosh.
So,
So they can get us from the other side too. That's not good. We have enough of that with the live ones. We don't need the dead ones after us
gosh, you're
too.
not kidding.
Oh my goodness. So what happened to these kids now that they're probably adults? Did things calm
So
down? Did they message you?
they
Follow
went
on?
on their way. One of them actually, Amber left campus. Her mother was over in London, and I think she moved to London, England.
Okay.
Um,
I'd
then
move far
my
away too.
that'd be a long way. And then the others just kind of, they went off to college somewhere else. It was a community college campus,
Mhm.
and so they went. One of them was majoring in drafting and graphic design, and so they went off to other colleges. So they all just kind of separated,
Yeah.
and the story just kind of, once the police got involved and realized that this had just gone absolutely crazy with what was going on, um, it kind of ended that.
Yeah.
And Amber left campus, and so no more Ouija board playing. But I
Right.
will tell you that I ran into somebody years later when I was writing that book
Mhm.
who was a student in the dorm where that happened. And he was asking me questions on Facebook Messenger one night. And he said, "Can you tell me the room where it happened?" I said, "You tell me what dorm you stayed in, and I'll let you know if you're warm."
Mhm.
And he told me, and I said, room were you in that dorm?" And he told me. I said, "That was Amber's room."
Wow, wow.
He said
How did
that,
they feel about you writing the book? Did they read it? Did they like that you shared the story or?
well, I changed the names and I haven't seen them in probably 25, 30 years. So
Yeah.
they probably don't even know it's out.
We gotta let them know. Oh my goodness. What it sounds like an excellent book. All your books sound excellent. So I hope that you guys check them out. Um, Let me go to the third question, and then we're going to talk about your last series because it's a whole series of books. And then I want to touch on the UFO here towards the end. But the cryptid question is, which cryptid is most often described as a tall, hairy, human like creature spotted in North American forests? Mothman, Chupacabra, or Bigfoot? Told you they were going to be a little bit easy, but I want you all to get the PDF. So make sure you go to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org podcast and put in your answers. All right. So, Sydney, let's get into these. Look amazing. Number one Amazon bestseller, The Haunted series. Let's talk about this.
So these are short. They're short books. They're novellas, and so they cover most haunted places in Mississippi because that's where I was actually when I was writing this series. Some of this also covers actual locations that we investigated. And when I would work with these paranormal investigators, I was a lifetime paranormal researcher, but had not actually been on site in an investigation where I'm actually, conjuring ghosts or trying to get them to speak. So that was a new experience for me. And I'll tell you, it was impressive when you watch the team that I had gotten. I mean, some of them had 20, 30 years experience in doing that.
Mhm.
And it was impressive. They knew what they were doing. Were professionals, and I got to use these clairvoyant skills that I had, you know, been developing and or that were getting more heightened as time went on and as I was more accepting of what was actually the changes that were happening. And then also working around people. I don't know if you believe this, but when you are with like-minded people, or let's say not just like-minded, but let's say people in your circle who have the same abilities that you do. If you are an empath, if you are an intuitive, if you are a clairvoyant, and you're around those people all the time, I think it builds confidence in your abilities. Number one, because you have someone who can validate these things with you.
Right.
They experience them too. But for some reason, it's like you both become these superpower people.
Yeah, I
And
agree. And maybe that's it. It amplifies
it
everybody's energy.
amplifies it. It was the most amazing thing ever. And even though the team is not together anymore, I still work with Dina and I work with Kendall. And as often as they get to come up or we get to see each other, we will still go and we don't film or necessarily or do anything like that anymore, but we will go and explore some places and we just enjoy you know getting that validation that we get with each other and we still have those same experiences.
Right.
It's just incredible. But
Yeah.
that particular series is the haunted series and it covers a lot that we explored in Mississippi.
Yeah. Did you ever? So I have a link in the description below to Ghost Shop, Ghost Stop for ghost equipment. If you
Uh-huh.
want to check out the equipment, did you ever capture any really interesting EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon? And what can you share with the audience? Maybe just one quick story that kind of really blew your mind when you were on one of these investigations.
It was the worst ever. It's called I named it the Devil's Den. And this
Okay.
particular thing, yes, Taps of Alabama actually had investigated this site before, and this was a site where a man had committed suicide um, in front of his family
Mm.
just a few months before, but there was a history to this place. and I'm calling it Suicide Row because it's a dead end road, and there have been multiple families that have committed suicide on this one small stretch of road. Not only that, but there was a baby that was murdered and put in a 55-gallon drum and left at the end of the driveway. And 5 to 7 days later, a family member came by and found it.
Mm.
So
That's tragic.
there was a lot of tragedy in the middle of all of this happening before this man committed suicide. He started hearing things and seeing things. And after we did an investigation, I do not doubt one thing that they told us: there was nothing but evil. I have a picture that the owner of the property sent me, and when I altered you know, the filter on it to where I could see what was in the background, you don't want to see it.
Mm.
It's a face.
Oh,
It's a face.
wow. Has anybody tried like clearing this location? I mean, wouldn't it be
They've had 3 Catholic priests there
okay? And has it improved at all? Because that's just tragic and so
for
sad. And
for a minute. For a minute. The best thing that in fact, I was so sad. This lady was so traumatized. I encouraged her to get professional help, grief counseling. And honestly, Katie, if you are not equipped to handle demonic type things, you don't need to go there.
right,
You
that's
need
a good tip for everybody out there.
you
Stay
do
away.
not stay away. If
Yes.
you are not equipped to handle it, you don't have the training, all of those things, that is not, I mean, look, we were dealing with something that was way beyond
Yeah.
anything that we could deal with. Um, so my advice, my I just told her my advice was don't go back there, stay
Right.
away for your safety and your sanity. But literally, if the place burned down, I don't know if that helped.
Right.
It is really that was a bad story. It is in one of those books though, in the haunted series.
Yeah.
I tell that story.
That's amazing. Well, your work is incredible. I think you're just fantastic to talk to.
Oh, I just gave my
You're such a
camera
good.
at work.
Well, I know. So that just means we're gonna have to have you back on, and we're gonna get that camera fixed of
We're
yours.
gonna
'Cause
get this
I want to
stupid
see that
camera
beautiful face
fixed.
of yours.
Oh, thank
um,
you.
but we met at the Ozarks UFO Festival in Missouri, which, by the way, for all you UFO enthusiasts out there, it is a great conference to go to. It's intimate but great, and I don't know, it's just one of my favorites. And so, what is the interest for you with UFOs and ufology?
You know what? I have been diving into the UFO thing for the last couple of years. And I really just wanted to get off the fence. I was on the fence because I didn't know whether or not, is what these people seeing, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you where I am now.
Oh
I
yeah,
have I have no doubt. I have no doubt. What I believe now, after months and months and months and months of reading everything I could get my hands on and watching things, I believe that there has been something here for a long, long time. And I do believe that the orbs that we're seeing, um, the little balls of light that are dancing
mhm,
around at
yeah,
Skinwalker Ranch,
yeah. And some people call them fairy lights too.
fairy
Um,
light.
yeah.
I think that there's something inside that ball,
Oh
that it's a transport. Um, Part of this, I believe, is spiritual. Tucker Carlson gave an interview when he was talking. I can't remember who he was talking to, but he said one night that the stuff that he has learned about the UFO phenomenon was so disturbing to him that he could not share it with his wife.
yeah.
and that
I
there
heard
was
that,
some
and
of
I
it.
heard he recently kind of set it down. I mean, he had a huge interest for a while, and I think maybe he got some answers. Maybe he was seeking, and now I don't know if I don't follow that too much. I actually don't watch too much TV here. It's always good advice. Turn off that news. It's like so
Yeah,
depressing.
no kidding.
Anyway, it's so depressing. But yeah, that is so fascinating. And I guess my question then, the orbs and it took me like for a couple of years. You got there quicker than I did because I do have my skeptical side only because there's a lot of black access military projects. I think a lot of what people are seeing is our own things, but I do believe that there are so many good credible cases out there, and more witnesses are coming forward that are pilots and military pilots and commercial pilots, and I think that's important. And the radar data and stuff, I'm a data person, I like that. But do you think that like the orbs that you're talking about, if it's a transport, do you think they're coming from out there, or have they been here? Are they under our oceans? And do you think paranormal in UFOs, if you're more apt to see a ghost, are you more apt to see a UFO? Do you think they're kind of connected in that way?
I think that yes, I think that the ability, if you are a discerning type person or sensitive, I do think that well, for one thing, because you're more open-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of logical.
There goes my brains.
Yeah, yeah. But as far as where as far as the physical things, the actual vehicles, I believe that are coming out. I think they're coming out of the oceans. I think they're coming out of the mountains, but they're doing this interdimensionally. I think that there is a part of physics that we don't necessarily understand, and if they keep messing with stuff at Skinwalker Ranch, they're going to have the Jetsons. Come, the Jetsons, the
I
cartoon.
love that visual. I just love that. The
They're
Jetsons
gonna
are
jet
coming
the
in.
Jetsons. They're gonna have the Jetsons coming in and out of the mesa. Um, I am telling you that I believe some of this is interdimensional. It is spiritual. However, the thing that Katie that really keeps me from becoming a full-fledged skeptic and believing that this is all things that our military or, Lockheed Martin has got going on is because of the stories that come from even as far back as the late 19th century.
That's true. Yeah,
And
these
then you
paintings.
have and you have um, Harry Truman sitting in the White House in the 1940s. You have the 1940s with Roswell. Something happened.
Yeah,
And
you're right about that.
and here's the thing. Here's the thing that's the same with the paranormal as it is with UFOs. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions and millions of witnesses that have witnessed a paranormal event, whether it's seeing a ghost or the supernatural and seeing an angel. The same can be said of UFOs. Here's my thing.
Yeah,
They are not all of us are not crazy. Everybody, all millions of those people are not having a you know, hallucination.
yeah,
So we can't all be wrong.
right. Good point.
Something something is going on, and it just depends on what you actually think that is.
Yeah,
Uh,
perception, our own perception, and I mean we're winding down here to 6 minutes. This time flew by with you, so I would love to have you back on here in a
oh, I
few
would love to talk some
um,
more. I want
but
to pick your mind about the UFO.
oh yeah. So in the 6 minutes left, do you think that we are active participants in manifesting both UFOs and ghosts? Does that make a difference?
That we are active participants.
Hmm.
Uh, yes, we can be. We can be active participants. It really just it depends. Um, can you also take control though and shut things down?
It's a good question too. What do you think about that?
You absolutely can. and I've had to do that when I've had a meltdown in the last house I lived in that was the ghost was driving me crazy. He would drag a potato sack. It sounded like a potato sack. He would drag it across my tile kitchen floor every day.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it became so loud one day that I swore I was writing. I was working on a book, and I just stopped and I went, "Oh my god, I'm going to turn around and this freaking thing is going to be standing right there." And finally, I just screamed out, "Stop it."
Yeah.
And it stopped.
Yeah, that's a good way to end the show, actually. What is your advice for somebody that is being kind of tormented? Or, I mean, some people want their ghost to stay. Sometimes it could be a little fun if you think it's, a relative or an angel or something like that. And you don't necessarily always want them to go away if it's not, a negative, nasty one. But let's say you have a negative, nasty one. What is some good advice for people that might be dealing with this on how to maybe,
Well,
put a stop
I
to
will
it? Enough.
I will tell you that if your ghost is moving the furniture, 3 and
Mhm.
500 pounds furniture, or scooting the refrigerator across the floor, you need to get out.
Right, not a good
Um,
one. That's a
Not a
sign.
good one. That's not a good one. You can call, I would suggest that you call your minister, that you call a
Okay.
priest. You're gonna need additional help.
Yeah.
You can call this thing out. I have called it out, but at the same time, you need to have the resources,
Mhm.
and get help that maybe you're not able to do, and to rid yourself of that situation. And then, of course, there is always that you can leave. But if you are like me and stubborn, that's my house. That's
Yeah,
your house. So you live there, and it's visiting.
right.
So you have to show it who's boss.
Yeah, that's good advice. Very good advice. It has been beyond a pleasure having you here tonight.
It's been
Again,
so
I
much
just want,
fun.
yeah, oh, it is so much fun. So let's go ahead and the Bradford series. Please check out Sydney's website. We could pop that up here for you guys. lsydneyfisher.com. I hope you all go over and check out her fabulous website and all her titles there. Um, and learn more about Sydney also at her website. The Haunted series, these look fantastic. And of course, this one is if you really, I mean, Halloween's right around the corner, right? So this looks like a good one for Halloween. Have you ever thought how cool it would be, Sydney, to get one of your books turned into a feature film?
I would go to the movie and watch it.
I would too. I would
I mean
too.
I've always said, look, it should be a movie. It's a good story, not because I wrote it. Seriously, not because I wrote this. It just
Right.
is a good story. Anybody could have written it, and I'd like it.
Yeah. What are some of like so for me, I love well, I'm a little dorky this way, but I love good documentary films. I'd much rather watch a documentary or stories that are based on true stories, like based on true events. I find them fascinating, history movies and things like that. What are some of your favorite ghost movies in the 2 minutes we have left? I'm curious.
The Mothman prophecies.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh my God, you haven't? With
No.
Richard Gere? With
Mm-mm.
Richard Gere? Oh no, listen, it's Hollywood. It's, but it's based off of that. Oh, it's so good. The Mothman prophecies.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um,
check it out tonight.
yes, you've got to watch it. It's so good. I visited Mothman Country last summer. So I went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and it was the coolest thing ever. I believe it really happened.
Oh
I
wow.
really do.
Yeah.
And then let's see, The Shining totally messed me up for life.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
great one.
The
Like you said,
Ex
we gotta go to the Stanley Hotel, so we gotta plan that.
we gotta go to the Stanley. The
Mhm.
Exorcist ruined my life.
Mhm.
Um, I I didn't sleep well until I was 23 years old, and then
Y'all been
um,
forewarned.
but I will tell you, I really, oh, Stigmata. Watch
Oh,
Stigmata.
Okay. I don't know if I've seen that one either. Omen. Omen's a good one too.
Omen is a good one. Watch
Mm,
Stigmata. It's about the lady. She gets the stigmata.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now I
really
have to
cool.
decide Mothman or Stigmata. Okay. I'm going to
Oh,
curl up to a scary movie tonight because you put me in the mood for that.
oh, I just thought
And
it was good.
yeah, I'm going to check that out. Well, Sydney, we'll have you back on. I'd love to have you back on. We'll get that camera
Yes.
rolling. Thank you all for being here. Next week, we have Michelle Miners from the Uinta Basin. We're going to talk all things high strangeness. So we hope to see you guys here next Wednesday night. And until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Again, Sydney, thank you so much for being here, and we will talk soon. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
Good night.